November 1945, Germany. Nazi doctors stand trial for crimes against humanity, and the world promises never again. Half a world away, an even darker program is being erased from the record. Japan's Imperial Army built a facility that experimented on living human beings, calling its victims logs. When the war ended, the men responsible for it did not face judges. They faced negotiators. The United States traded justice for research data and quietly let the architects of that program walk free. This is the story of Unit 731 and the deal that buried it. The story starts in 1931, after Japan invades Manchuria. The Imperial Army wants new ways to guarantee dominance, and it finds one in an army surgeon named Shiro Ishii. Ishii is obsessed with a single idea: biological warfare. He believes Japan can conquer its enemies not just with bullets, but with plague, anthrax, and cholera. By 1936, backed by the military's highest levels, he gets what he wants. Near the city of Harbin in occupied Manchuria, construction begins on a sprawling secret complex. Locals are told it is only a lumber mill. Officially, the complex has a deliberately boring name: the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. Internally, everyone calls it Unit 731. The lumber mill story becomes a grim inside joke among the staff, because the facility does need logs to keep running. Logs, or maruta in Japanese, are people, human test subjects, brought in to be used up and disposed of like scrap wood. By the early 1940s, Unit 731 is a fully functioning institution with over 150 buildings, its own airfield, and thousands of staff, including some of Japan's most respected medical minds. Their mission is to weaponize the world's most brutal diseases, and that requires testing them on living people. The victims are mostly Chinese and Russian civilians and prisoners of war, along with Koreans. Men, women, and children are rounded up by the Kempeitai, Japan's secret police, and brought through the gates. Once inside, they are no longer treated as human. They become raw material for an industrial program of suffering, carried out in the name of science. Exact numbers are impossible to confirm, but historians estimate between 3,000 and 12,000 people are killed inside those walls. Inside Unit 731, the experiments follow a cold, scientific logic, carried out without mercy. To study disease progression, doctors deliberately infect prisoners with cholera, typhoid, and the plague, then dissect them while still alive to observe the damage. In frostbite trials led by physiologist Yoshimura Hisato, victims' limbs are frozen solid and then thawed, just to document how the tissue decays. Prisoners are starved, dehydrated, and spun in centrifuges to test the limits of the human body. None of it is framed as cruelty inside the compound. It is filed away as data. Victims are also used as living targets. They are tied in open fields while scientists test flamethrowers and bombs built to spray plague-infected fleas. In pressure chambers, subjects are exposed to extremes far beyond survivable limits, just to measure how the body fails. None of this stays confined to the lab. Unit 731 flies planes over Chinese cities, dropping ceramic bombs filled with infected fleas and poisoning wells with cholera and typhoid. These attacks are estimated to have killed hundreds of thousands of Chinese civilians, triggering epidemics that outlast the war itself. By August 1945, Japan is losing the war, and Shiro Ishii knows his time is up. He gives the order to erase everything. Explosives level the complex. Thousands of documents burn. Remaining prisoners are killed, so there are no witnesses left to testify. Ishii and his top scientists flee back to Japan, hoping to vanish into the chaos of a collapsing empire. Within days, American forces begin occupying the country, hunting down the architects of Japan's worst wartime crimes. It seems certain Ishii will eventually face a courtroom, the same way Nazi doctors are about to in Germany. American intelligence officers, led by Lieutenant Colonel Murray Sanders, start digging into rumors of Japan's bioweapons program. What they find is staggering: a research library built on thousands of human experiments, the kind no ethical scientist could ever replicate. But the alliance with the Soviet Union is already fracturing, and a new, colder war is dawning. In this climate, Ishii's data looks less like evidence of a crime and more like a strategic asset. The Japanese doctors know it too. Terrified of being handed to the Soviets, they realize their research is the only leverage they have left. In 1947, a U.S. War Department memo lays the calculation out in cold, plain language. Japan's biological warfare data is too valuable to national security to risk in a war crimes trial. So a deal is struck. General Douglas MacArthur grants immunity to Shiro Ishii and his collaborators. In exchange for exclusive access to their data, including human tissue slides and detailed reports, the men of Unit 731 are protected from prosecution. Declassified records even suggest cash payments changed hands, somewhere between 150 and 200,000 yen, for their continued cooperation. The Soviets hold their own trial in Khabarovsk, prosecuting a dozen captured members, including several high-ranking officers. The United States publicly dismisses the entire proceeding as propaganda. Behind closed doors, America's own findings and the men it had just made a deal with disappear under layers of classification. There is no American trial. There is no public reckoning. The men who ran one of the most sadistic programs of the 20th century simply go home. And for the American government, the story ends there, filed away, stamped secret, and left to be forgotten. Shiro Ishii, the architect of it all, is never charged with a single crime. He dies of throat cancer in 1959, a free man. Many of his top scientists go on to thrive in post-war Japan. They become heads of medical schools, senior figures at pharmaceutical companies, and leaders inside Japan's National Institute of Health. One of Ishii's closest associates, Ryoichi Naito, goes on to co-found a major pharmaceutical company, the Green Cross Corporation. The men who once called their victims logs spend the rest of their lives building respectable careers in plain sight, largely unquestioned. For decades, the Japanese government downplays or outright denies Unit 731 ever existed. It barely appears in textbooks. It is absent from most public memory, in Japan and in the West alike. The victims and their families receive no justice, no apology, and no real acknowledgement of what was done to them. Meanwhile, the men who built and ran the program live out ordinary lives. Their past sealed inside classified American archives thousands of miles from the villages their experiments once devastated. The silence holds for more than 30 years, protected by two governments at once. It is not until the 1980s that the full picture starts breaking into public view, pulled out by persistent journalists and historians combing through declassified American files. What they uncover confirms what survivors and Chinese researchers had said for decades: that in the race for a Cold War edge, the United States chose to protect the perpetrators of some of the worst crimes of the century. The documents are real. The immunity deal is real. The payments are real. Decades of denial start to collapse under the weight of paper the government itself once tried to hide. Historians came to call it a Faustian bargain. Intelligence bought with impunity, paid for in silence rather than money. The scientists who ran the experiments returned to ordinary careers, some rising to prominent positions in Japanese medicine and industry, protected by an agreement never put before a court. Survivors and victims' families waited generations for acknowledgement that never fully came. No war crimes trial addressed Unit 731 directly. What remains is a permanent stain, a conspiracy of silence stretching across two governments, and thousands of victims denied even the simple dignity of being remembered by name. Today, the Pingfang complex in Harbin stands preserved as a museum, rebuilt from rubble, photographs, and survivor testimony. Visitors walk past display cases holding rusted tools once used in the experiments, past reconstructed cell blocks where thousands died without names recorded anywhere. Some American files tied to the immunity deal remain partially redacted, more than 80 years after the war ended. The Japanese government has never issued a formal apology naming Unit 731 directly. Historians keep petitioning for full release of the remaining files. No complete list of victims has ever been assembled. The frostbite testing chamber still stands in Harbin. If this is the first time you're hearing what happened at Pingfang, it won't be the last time historians argue about it. Subscribe to X Facts, History and Mystery for more of history's darkest, least discussed chapters, and tell us in the comments which part of this story surprised you most. And if you want to understand how the world got here in the first place, the video on your screen now traces it back 12,000 years to the reset that made empires like Japan's possible at all.